You may not have heard much about Gore recently. Of course, he left politics, took a very low profile, grew a beard there for a while. Now Gore has written in Rolling Stone magazine that President Obama has been a disappointment on the environmental front. He writes, Obama's election was accompanied by intense hope that many things in need of change would change. Well, some things have, Gore writes, but others have not. Climate change, unfortunately, is in the second category. Gore adds, President Obama has thus far failed to use the bully pulpit to make the case for bold action on climate change. Well, we got a friend here. Joan Walsh is editor-at-large for Salon. Eric Bates is executive editor of Rolling Stone magazine. Thank you very much, Joan and Eric, for joining us. Let me go to Eric. This piece, you commissioned it. Did he come to you or did you go to him?
We talked to him about doing this. We felt that everybody knows the science. Gore has made clear what the science says, that climate change is real, that the planet faces a grave risk. The question is, why hasn't more been done to stop it? And we thought he was in a real position to give us an analysis of that.
Well, what do you think is the problem? The Republican Party are basically lining themselves as anti-science, with some exceptions like Huntsman. They're willing to go out there and say they believe the world's about 5,000 years old. They basically go back to fundamentalist views about creationism, and they really don't have any problem being anti-science. Isn't that really the problem? Not that Gore has a problem with Obama. Where's the problem with climate change? Isn't it that half the country's being sold nonsense?
That's right, and that's exactly what this essay says. It's interesting. The essay is really about the press and the media and how they've fallen down on the job in terms of being the referee in the fight between science and reason. Gore really points out that the media hasn't done its job and has kind of taken a he said, she said approach to climate change, when in fact there's truth and there's falsity in this, and,
I agree
and the two are being conflated.
I'm with you on that, Eric. I hate that so-called even-handed, so-called objective journalism. You know, you can't say something isn't true if it's true in the interest of even-handedness. Right. Joan, your thoughts about this? Let's go to Al Gore. He's been sort of in and out of public life. For a while after getting sort of screwed out of the election back in 2000, we can argue about how it was done, but it ended up being some bad calls by him in terms of the recount and some very bad intervention by the Supreme Court. Right. Very bad. We can all agree on that, a lot of us. He's a qualified guy. I think he ran a terrible campaign in 2000, but here he is. He did Inconvenient Truth, which is a hell of a documentary with Davis Guggenheim, and now he's back. What do you make of his going after the president in this fashion?
Well, you know, Eric made a really good point, Chris. I did read the whole 7,000 words. It's really inspiring. It's a little bit depressing, but most of it is really spent on us, not the three of us, of course, because we're doing the right thing, but on the media and on this fog that has been caused by spending, by powerful interests who are against any action on climate change. That's really what it's about. Then he comes to Obama. And when he gets to Obama, gives him some credit for things that he's done, but he says that he hasn't used the bully pulpit. And it's kind of bigger than that, because what he's saying is what other liberal advocates say, too. He hasn't really told a story of, A, what we're up against, but also, B, what we can do about it. And this speaks to something that you're interested in. He talks about we could have a great industrial renaissance, R&D on alternative energies. We could be solving the unemployment crisis while we're solving the climate crisis and making national security less of an issue because we're not dependent on Gulf oil. So he sees the way these things are interconnected, and so does President Obama. But President Obama has kind of gotten stuck in the gridlock of Washington.
I know, the gridlock and the fact. Let's get back to Eric and the journalism here. Eric, I want to get back to a couple of points here before I go back to this article by Al Gore. And it's this. The House Democrats who stuck their necks out on cap and trade have had their heads cut off. Right. The Senate didn't vote. The Senate never got to it. You can argue it's the president's fault, but the Democratic Party is giving up whole states in the interest of climate change. West Virginia used to be a Democratic state in the Bobby Kennedy, Jack Kennedy day. It voted for Clinton. It's gone. You can't talk cap and trade in southwestern Pennsylvania. There's a lot of places in coal country you dare not spend a nickel for climate change issues. So isn't that the problem, not the president?
That's right. We've gone from a place where we knew the facts, where Inconvenient Truth had really laid it out, and we knew the crisis that we were facing, and now you can't even talk reasonably about the solutions. And I think that's Gore's main point, is that the attack on climate science is really an attack on the rule of reason. It's an attack on our ability as a democracy and a society to hold a rational debate on what the facts say and what we need to do.
Well, have we ever, get back to Joan and Eric jump in here too, have we ever had a time where one side's willing to just say something? We can argue about wars, and there are always issues of values and measuring facts, but here's a fact on the table: global warming, climate change. Rush Limbaugh says stuff that is just it's just not true. I never use the word lie, but it's appropriate here. People like, Glenn Beck, I heard him months or years ago on the radio before he was on TV saying there's no climate change, pandering to these business types, pandering to people that don't want to deal with reality. These people are evil in what they're doing. I'm not saying their souls are evil, but what they're doing is really, really wrong. And it's not the president. It's this corrupt media on the right.
And it's money.
No, it's corrupt media. They're making good salaries, telling people what they know is not true. Rush Limbaugh is not a stupid person. Glenn Beck is not a stupid person. They're saying it on purpose.
They're serving the interests of people who are making a lot of money from our system being exactly the way it is, and they don't care. They're not just doing this for entertainment. And I think you're right. I mean, the president has had himself blocked, but there's a need for more leadership on this issue, and I think there's a feeling that he could do more than he did. I don't know what he could have done in the Senate, though. I read the piece, and I know that there was a juncture back then when senators seemed interested, and Lindsey Graham walked away. I think it was very complicated. I think that sometimes people ask the president to be Superman in these situations, and that's his job, sort of, but we have to be really realistic about Congress.
Joan, as always, I agree with you 99% of the time. Eric, good editing there. You got a good piece there. I would just say about our president, he is our president. On my issues, he's always my president on some of the big ones, like climate change and race and things like that, and wars. My belief is this, and Churchill, my hero, said this once: I refuse to be impartial between the fire brigade and the fire. The president is the fire brigade on this. Right. He may not be the greatest fire brigade, but damn it, he's not the fire. Glenn Beck is. Rush Limbaugh's the fire. The Chamber of Commerce, the Wall Street Journal editorial page. They are the fire. Let's not forget it. Up next, what's